It genuinely feels like he is I'm not going to say Manchurian candidate, but it genuinely feels like Donald Trump is a secret accelerationist. If I didn't think that Donald Trump was just operating as a rugged capitalist, a rugged individualist, American exceptionalist, who simply does not understand that America's, like, the way that America is seen around the globe has changed dramatically. And he has been a agent of chaos that has altered American trajectory in very meaningful ways. If I didn't believe that Donald Trump was just like operating under this assumption that like we can do whatever we want, I would say that he is truly a third worldist accelerationist that's lighting America on fire and destroying its force projection capabilities, doing everything he possibly can to ruin this country once and for all, to permanently destroy American hegemony. What gives?
Антисемитизм называется распространение вражды к евреям. Когда проклятая исламская монархия доживала свое последнее время, она старалась натравить темных рабочих и крестьян на евреев.
As Canada announced counter tariffs to the American ones, the U.S. president denied that he wanted to change Canada's French language laws.
I would never interfere with Canadians speaking French. In fact, I have never even thought of doing such a stupid thing. This lie was made up by a weak and ineffective Prime Minister in an attempt to gain political support, which he has totally lost, from the people of Quebec.
The post comes as Quebec is just weeks away from provincial.
I love Vive la Quebec! I love that the Francophone thing is such an important issue that even Donald Trump, who is an incompetent tyrant, a petty despot, still had to back away and say, listen, I would never tell my beautiful French Canadians not to speak the beautiful French language. Vive la Quebec! Tabarnak! Trump caused the Quebecs and normals to work together. Respect. Quebec is probably the most trad society in North America. They've actually explicitly traded off of economic growth for cultural preservation. Donald Trump wanted Canada to weaken its protections for the French language and culture. Quebec has been French-speaking for over 400 years. It is one of the oldest European societies in North America and the heart of French America. It was there long before Trump. It will be there long after him. Protect Quebec. Protect French Canadian culture. I said this already. When Trump first entertained the annexation of Canada, what did I tell you? Go back and look at my coverage. The first thing I said was the Quebecois nationalists, the Quebec separatists will literally put up the strongest resistance to being a part of America. They will make Al-Qaeda look like a picnic. They will put up Ho Chi Minh style Ho Chi Minh style insurgency movements. They do not play around. I know, because I have made fun of the Quebec nationalist movement. I have made fun of them in the past. Lightly, gently, ribbing at some of their prominent thinkers and what they have said. Including how people who are living in Quebec are treated or mistreated, not dissimilar to the First Nations people. That's why my coworkers hate you. Yes, I find that to be somewhat of a funny line. I'm sorry. Okay? But in that process, in that timeline, I learned about the ways in which the Francophones have fought hard to preserve their language and their culture, and I respect it. Yeah. L'Americanisme. The Menace. Americanism, a cartoon from the Almanach de la Langue Françoise. Quebec. When the first annexation talks happened, there was an expert in insurgency movements who came out saying that Quebecois would make Iraq look like child's play in comparison. He referenced liberal Americans sending weapons, etc., north through the porous border once the U.S. invaded wild times. Anyway, let's continue.
Elections, and as a separatist party is surging in the polls. But nonetheless, Trump's trade war and Mark Carney's push back against it, they have, political scientists say, unified Canadians.
Trump is doing right now is something that Canadians themselves were unable to do, I think, which is unify all together, okay, to fight back.
In all the damage that the trade war is doing on the economic and political front, one winner may end up being the French language and Canadian pride and unity over its culture and diversity.
It's unfortunate that our government is where they are because the citizens, we're on a whole different page.
Canadian officials announced their own set of tariffs against the U.S. in response to the latest American tariffs on Canadian goods. Both nations will now pay import taxes of up to 50% for things like alcohol, steel, wood, and sporting goods, just to name a few.
It's so funny to just be like, fuck it. Cost of living crisis exploding. Waging wars in the Strait of Hormuz that's destabilizing the entire planet's energy markets. Fuck it, trade war with Canada. Out of nowhere, Donald Trump comes out and says, nope. Oh, I'm sorry. Is all of our food poison? I guess we have to engage in trade war with Canada. It genuinely feels like he is I'm not going to say Manchurian candidate, but it genuinely feels like Donald Trump is a secret accelerationist. If I didn't think that Donald Trump was just operating as a rugged capitalist, a rugged individualist, American exceptionalist, who simply does not understand that America's, like the way that America is seen around the globe has changed dramatically. And he has been a agent of chaos that has altered American trajectory in very meaningful ways. If I didn't believe that Donald Trump was just like operating under this assumption that like we can do whatever we want, I would say that he is truly a third worldist accelerationist that's lighting America on fire and destroying its force projection capabilities, doing everything he possibly can to ruin this country once and for all, to permanently destroy American hegemony. In his second term, Donald Trump has made China a more popular country around the world than the United States of America. That is unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. A whole-ass supervillain, dude.
CBS News Detroit's Heath Kalb talked with experts about the trade war's impact and with people who will be paying the price.
We are in the middle of what was once friendly neighbors, America and Canada. And as this trade war between the two countries continues to intensify, we heard from residents from both countries today about this now souring relationship.
Right in the middle of these two North American giants, residents from both sides are walking, biking, and driving like any other sunny summer day on the new Gordie Howe Bridge.
We had such a wonderful relationship with them over the years, so for us to be here today, it's kind of sad.
But the two countries, separated here by the Detroit River, are now in one nasty fight.
Windsorites and Detroiters are the children in a really nasty divorce right now, it seems.
Stephen Hargraves told me he heard from fellow Canadians who were upset at him for spending his time and money in the States.
A ton of people were like, why are you going over there? Why are you going to support a country that doesn't care about us?
And that's exactly the concern from experts on both sides, who worry this trade war can not only impact businesses directly, but can also deter tourism.
The rhetoric, the finger pointing was pretty significant. And then, of course, yesterday and today, name calling. It doesn't do anybody any good.
Glenn Stevens Jr. says business leaders on both sides of the border are not happy with both America's tariffs and Canada's retaliation.
So anything that increases the input costs on doing that business, whether it's a small business owner or a large manufacturer of a vehicle, an OEM, it's not tenable for us to do business that way.
The U.S. placed a 50% tariff on Canadian steel to make cars, lumber to build homes, and numerous consumer products like alcohol, paper goods, and dairy. And in response, Canada announced its own set of tariffs against the U.S. on Tuesday. Not everyone we heard from is upset, though.
Growing up in Detroit, that the United States and Canada have always been allies, but I respect Trump, and I think everything should be equal. You know, if they charge 20% on a vehicle, it should go both ways.
So as this tariff battle continues, and President Trump is suggesting renaming Lake Ontario to Lake America, the Canadians we heard from seem to all be in unison about their displeasure with how things are going.
It was always a friendship, a partnership, and I remember a lot of different key moments, like with the auto trade and things that happened as I was growing up, and this is kind of like an undoing.
Reporting on the Gordie Howe, Heath Kalb, CBS News Detroit.
President Trump is doubling down on his comments about Canada. In a radio interview with Freedom 104.7, he says they are one of the worst countries to deal with, and it comes after
Lake America is such a fuck you. I know it's so juvenile. It's so childish. It's so petty. It's also self-defeating. It is putting like if the Democrats could get their shit in order, they would obviously point to this in Michigan nonstop. They'd be like, this is what Donald Trump is trying to do currently that is going to destroy trade between Canada and Michigan. And Mike Rogers is signing off on it. This is massively consequential for Michigan's economy. Massively damaging to Michigan's economy. And yet, for some strange reason, establishment Democrats are too busy yelling about me rather than this.
Canada announced dollar-for-dollar, rate-for-rate counter tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods.
They are one of the worst countries in the world to deal with. They have taken advantage of the United States for many decades, actually. They charge tariffs that are unbelievable, like on milk, 400%. And I just said, we're taking them on. It's time to teach Canada you can't do this anymore.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us live at the White House right now. Nancy, details are coming out about what happened during these trade negotiations with Canada. So what are we learning there?
We're learning that a couple of things happened, Mugo. First of all, the Canadians say that the president and his team injected some last-minute demands that either hadn't been part of the negotiations until right at the end or had been part of the negotiations, were settled, and then suddenly cropped back up. And when President Trump was asked about this yesterday, did you come in with last-minute demands? The president basically said, well, it sounds like me, which, was sort of a confirmation that that is kind of how things went down. Beyond that, the thing that really seemed to rankle the Canadians was the fact that they felt that they were being pressured by the U.S. negotiators into an agreement that would basically hitch them to U.S. trade policy, require them to have the same trade policies towards other nations that the White House and the Trump negotiated with other nations. They didn't feel that that was favorable to them or to their sovereignty. The White House officials here that we're hearing from say this was a great deal that they were offering to Canada, and that if they
what do you mean? It's a great deal. You become fully vassalized. You have no control over your own economy. You have no sovereignty whatsoever, and I guess that's win-win somehow. That's a win-win. Why would anybody say yes to that deal? Especially Mark Carney, who rose to power because of his opposition to Trump's threats of annexation. Donald Trump delivered a gift to the liberals in Canada by threatening annexation at a time when Pierre Poilievre was hyping up how pro-America he was. Donald Trump came out and was like, yeah, that's right, we're taking over. Pepe, you're my guy. We're taking over. He is going to be the Grand Vizier. He will be the Viceroy of the Canadian province that will now exist under American command. Canadians saw that and were like, no, absolutely not. There are at least those who are right-wing or smart enough to recognize the situation. Doug Ford, ironically, is one of them, right? He's conservative, but he's like at least smart enough to recognize that boosting his anti-Trump credibility is probably aiding him. So there are a lot of really bad politicians in Canada and some that I am not exactly in favor of, like Mark Carney, who are taking advantage of the situation because it's politically very positive for them. You know you're huge in Canada, right? I know. Of course. It makes total sense that I would have a lot of I know I have a lot of fans in Canada, and it makes total sense that I have a lot of fans in Canada because Canadians look at someone like myself and go, I cannot believe that they are treating this guy like a psycho for demanding basic provisions from the state for all citizens unconditionally. Things that they already have and take for granted and want to defend and want to expand on, like social safety nets, like healthcare, we're fighting for over here and getting called Stalin for. Americans treat you like you're Joseph Stalin if you're like, I just want healthcare, please. I'm in favor of data centers now, but only on American soil. Jesus Christ. Howard Lutnick should read Tom Schelling. To compel another state into accepting your demands, you need to credibly promise that if it does, you'll stop inflicting pain. Though lowering trade barriers rather than raising them would be better still. U.S. policy often fails because U.S. officials ignore, or as in this case, actively undermine the assurance part of coercion. I strongly suspect, for example, that Iran now believes that if it makes concessions, it will invite more, not less military action. Yes. And this is a lesson that the Trump administration has taught every other country, not just Iran, but China and Canada as well. I am 100% certain that Mark Carney is continuing this no capitulation regime because he saw what happened with Iran. He saw what happened with China. Countries that fight back against Trumpism, countries that fight back against American imperialism, countries that fight back against American hegemony. That is the only way that they win. China resisted against Trump's tariff war and won. Iran resisted against America's military actions and is winning and has won the war, obviously. But then you look at other countries that caved, that buckled under pressure. What did they win? They won nothing. All they got was more anger, more resentment, more humiliation. Look at the rest of the European Union to understand what happens when you cave to Donald Trump.
Do go back to the bargaining table. The deal that comes down the line is...
How do Canadians feel about XQC, by the way, who literally participated in helping Trump get elected? Like, how do the Quebecers feel about that? Like, this your boy?
Yeah. So what's your good side? What do you like walking on? What side do you like walking on?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you look...
By the way, speaking of the double standard in the media, it's really funny that I campaign with socialists and left populist candidates, and it's like discourse permanently. Aiden Ross was, one of the first to do it with Donald Trump, and no one gave a shit. No one cared. It's so crazy to me that the guy who was like platformed straight up pedophiles, neo-Nazis, and the like went and did a whole ass live stream and nobody gave a shit.
Good from both sides. Yeah, it doesn't really matter at all. X, come on outside with the truck. Come on? Yeah. By the way, do you like my buddy Felix's shirt?
I love that.
Felix, by the way, Mr. Trump.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Wow. That's your boy, Canada. That's your boy. Foreign intervention in American politics. Cedin deden Nesrin baban.